let's jump right into it. As far as the investment, you're the Wall Street trapper. So obviously, stock market is your game.
Right.
So anybody that's been investing, I feel like a lot of people came into stocks around this pandemic, and it's been a flush of new investors that started to come into the marketplace. And now they're actually being educated on stock market. They watching Trapping Tuesdays. They're watching Market Mondays. Shout out to Ian.
Shout out to Ian.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
One of the things even I struggle with sometimes is like, how do you know when to sell a stock? Because a lot of people tell you like, this is a good time to buy the stock, right? Like obviously, like if it's 20% off if it's high, then you can use that metrics. Or if it's, it's different strategies of how to know when to buy a stock.
All right.
But there's not really too many metrics or strategies that I've seen to know when to sell a stock. So what's your thoughts on that?
So I have a few ways in which I deal with selling the stock, right? So one of the ways is I ask, before I even buy a stock, first I want, put a valuation on it, like what I think the company is worth. So before you get doing anything, you got to put a price tag on it. After you research the business, after you understand what it's worth, because if you don't know what it's worth, you don't know when to sell. You don't know when to buy. So you got to put that price tag on it. That only comes from doing the fundamental research, right? Understanding the business. And so one of the things I like to tell myself is simple. Once it gets to 100% for me, now it's time for me to think about, do I have another business? Because I don't want to just sell.
100% profit?
Yeah. I don't want to just sell and have the money sitting in my account. I think that's what most people do. Like, so you got to put a tag on it and then put a life expectancy on it. Like, what do I expect it to do in this time frame? And is it up a certain percentage in this time frame? So for me, the goal is already buy and hold 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Like you have to have a life expectancy of it, how you want it to perform. And then I'm asking myself, well, in this time, if I'm up 100% or more, if I have another stock that I'm willing to invest in, that's why we should always be looking for new businesses. That's why I tell people all the time, like, I don't care what's going on. Every day I'm researching new businesses because the world gonna keep on solving problems. That's what businesses are, man. They solve problems. You know what I'm saying? So the world always is presented with a problem. Somebody's always gonna try to do something better. Like Amazon drop, whatever they drop, boom, Snowflake coming with, they say, I could do it better than Amazon. You feel what I'm saying? So now I'm saying, okay, let me find different businesses that are solving different problems or doing things better than other businesses. Even Jeff Bezos said that. He said there's going to be a time where some businesses are going to come and do better than what I'm doing at what I'm doing, which is why he keeps on spreading the business out. So what I like to do is, again, put the lifetime span on it, whether it's a 5 year, 3 year, 2 year, 1 year, whatever that case may be. If I'm up 100% or more and I found another business that I like, I can take those profits and then put it in another business.
So when you get to 100%, right, are you saying, like, are you taking a portion of the shares or are you completely leaving the position?
Nah, so I want to stay in a position. Right? Because if it's up 100%, to me, that means it's still performing well. Like if the fundamentals are increasing, management is doing a great job, that's cool. I don't want to exit that position. Right? So I can take some of those profits, which means selling some of those shares from people don't know, like, because I heard people ask me, they're like, if I take profit, does that mean I'm selling some of the shares? Of course you are.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So you'll sell some of those shares and you'll put it in a new business. And now you can start another position with those profits, which is ideal. You know what I'm saying? Another way for me to sell is if the business is not performing well. You know what I'm saying? So if I did the research on it, if I've evaluated the business, and also in evaluating the business, when you put it life expectancy on it, or a time span that you want to do it, you being intentional, right? And so you asking yourself, what is the growth rate of this business?
So how would you calculate? Because this is something that even today in Dykeman, somebody came up to me and he was like, I know I should invest in good companies, but how do I even find a good company? Like, do you have to like read newspapers? Like, how do you, like, what's your process to actually know, okay, like you said, you got to constantly find new businesses.
Right.
How do you constantly find new businesses?
So an easy way for me, I still use the method like I did in prison, man. I just look at all them ticker symbols that's going down the bottom of CNBC. Like that's putting it on training wheels. That's without you having to even do anything. Like you get on CNBC, shout out to the trappers because I told them this and they do it now. Like you get on CNBC and there's a bunch of ticker symbols running across the bottom. Ones that you don't know about that, like, damn, what is that? Write it down. Like, don't be scared to do that. And another thing is also, I just look at what's going on. Everything I'm buying or everything, I'm looking at it saying, who made this? What this is? Who produced this? Who did that? You know, if I'm looking at tech, I want to see like what tech business. Like the other day, I found out that a business The ticker symbol was RBYL. I was like, oh, this the people who make Lysol. Like, I didn't know who made it, but as I'm reading the papers, I saw that Lysol sales had increased by 70%. The first thing I want to know is, who make that? Right? Like, who make that? Like, who make Lysol? Right? And I'm going to find out if it's public or it's private. Right? So I think that's the easy part in finding businesses. And then what happens is, when you're looking at one business, it's always going to shoot you to another business. It's always going to shoot you to its competitor. Like, so that's for me, I always do that. What this business is doing, I want to compare it to something. So now I'm going to look up such and such peers. So I know the competitor Lysol is Clorox. You know what I'm saying? So that's easy. That's like, it's not hard because 60% of the businesses in America are on the stock market.
So now, and part of your fundamentals is that's the first step, right? Look at
Right.
the peers. What else are we doing to make sure that this is a good company? Are we looking at, I know one of the things you love is no debt, but what are some other things that we're looking at when we're trying to figure out, yep, this is a good company?
Moats.
Ooh.
Moats.
Can I tell you when you said that last time? I always hear when you talk about moats. Well, I mean, we big Game of Thrones fans, so when we talk about moats, it makes me think of like when they was at Castle Black and it was like, yo, they can't get into the castle because the water's always around.
Yeah.
And so like, I'm like, oh, that's how I'm gonna think about moats when you say
That's
it.
exactly what
So
it is.
can you talk about moats?
So a moat is what protects a company from its competitors, right? And so there's different kinds of moats, and that's another thing for me too. When I'm looking at a business, I actually told a guy that's at Dykeman today. He explained to me about a business he was looking at, and he was like, they got a moat, and I was like, so what is the moat? And he was like, well, they the only person doing this in their field. And I said, ask yourself this question: are they the only business that's doing it because they have an advantage, like they have a patent on it, or did management find a way to where it will cost another business too much money to try to replicate that? Or are they just the first ones to do it and then anybody else can come back and do it? If that's the case, it's not a moat. You know what I'm saying? If I can speed rap and then if Troy studied me for 3 weeks and then he learned how to speed rap, then he can challenge me now. You feel what I'm saying? But if I can speed rap in a way that he can't get it, I now have set myself apart. Right, so a moat, there's different moats that businesses can have.
What is a moat?
So a moat is what protects a business from its competitors, right? It's some type of product or service that this business has that their competitors cannot do. And they cannot do it for multiple reasons. One, it'll cost them too much money to do it, right? So if it's gonna cost you too much money to replicate this, Chipotle or Chipotle, as I would say, you feel me? So they have this amazing moat where they build relationships. Anywhere that they build a store at, they find local farmers within a 100-mile radius and they partner with them. And anything that the farmers need, they're willing to help them for 2 reasons. 1, to make sure the crops are great, and 2, to solidify themselves as the plug. So you grow fresh crops, I'm gonna buy them from you. But here's what you need. And if you need help with any of this, I'm gonna help you. Right? So now what that does is it allows them now, for their competitors to come beat them, you gotta double my price. So if now it's gonna cut into your profit.
Yeah.
Which now gets into low operational costs, the cost that it costs the business to operate. You feel what I'm saying? So because Chipotle have done that, now the second moat to that is every day they give you fresh ingredients,
Right.
because they've partnered with all of the local farmers around that business, right? So every day now they've guaranteed to give you fresh vegetables. That is extremely hard to replicate. It's gonna cost you too much money to replicate this. So at this point, it's not even worth it.
So from what I'm hearing, it's like, yo, if I wanted to make the burrito, right? If I don't have that mold, it's gonna cost me like $16, where it's gonna cost Chipotle like $7.
Something like that, yeah.
So in that sense, and then pricing is a type of a moat.
It's called a pricing moat.
All right. So are there more types of moats?
There's another moat that I really love is called a switching moat.
Okay.
So a switching moat is, so how hard, so example, let's think about this business called, let's just think about Apple. Let's just keep it simple. So most people who have iPhone, they also have MacBook Pros, or they'll have an Apple Watch, or they're in that Apple ecosystem, right? the chances of me switching from Apple to Android or any other type of phone is slim to none, because now I gotta switch all my information off the Apple cloud to somebody else's cloud. That's a switching mode. Or in business, a lot of businesses will do this. So let's say cybersecurity, right? So let's say a business has all of their, I'm using this cybersecurity business to protect all of my brands. It's extremely hard for me to switch from this cybersecurity company to another cybersecurity company because all of my information is stored here. It becomes a hassle. Whereas I can just let's work this out to see what the problem is and fix it. So switching modes are extremely great because nobody likes to switch. People love conveniences. Businesses are the same way. I don't have to go through all, now I gotta shut business down, I gotta lose money, or I gotta open my business now, it becomes vulnerable to something like cybersecurity is serious, which is why I love cybersecurity, right? So any brand that it becomes a hassle for another brand, for the business, for its customers or service to leave that brand to go to another brand, that's a switching mode.
My graduates from my school being Forbes, bag drop.
Bag drop.
A mic drop, bag drop.
Bag drop.